Hello, it's Mr. Mulvey again. This video is about Gregor Mendel. By the time you finish this video, you'll be able to explain what were Gregor Mendel's experiments and what did Mendel discover through those experiments. This video is not intended to be a comprehensive history of Mendel or his experiments. It's only intended to cover the basics of what Mendel did and what he discovered. So who was Gregor Mendel? He was known as the father of genetics, so you know that he did something very important. He was a young priest from a monastery in Central Europe. He was also a science and math teacher. Yay for science teachers! He cared for the monastery's garden where he grew pea plants. Now, being the scientist that he was, he made some observations about those pea plants. He noticed that while many of those plants had traits identical to their parents, several of them also had traits that were completely different from their parents. So he became curious and wondered why and how that happened. So in order to help figure that out, he looked at several traits or physical characteristics of those pea plants. He looked at seed color, green versus yellow, pod color, green versus yellow, seed shape, smooth versus wrinkled, pod shaped, pinched versus smooth, seed coat color, gray and white, flower position, axial and terminal, and height, tall and short. So what did Mendel do in his experiments? Well, his first experiment used parent pea plants that were purebred. Now, he called this the P, or parent generation. That's P for parent, not P for pea plant. So purebred means that they always produce offspring with the same traits as the parent, as long as you cross two plants that have the same trait. So the results of his experiment, when he crossed a purebred tall and a purebred short plant, were that they were all tall. So Mendel wondered, where did the short trait go? So in order to try and figure that out, Mendel allowed the flowers from the offspring of his first experiment, the pea generation, to pollinate themselves. This generation is called the F1, or first filial generation. So essentially he crossed two tall plants, and he got 75% tall, which made sense, but 25% of those offspring were then short. So what he had figured out is that he got a ratio of 3 out of 4 that were tall, or 3/4, 75%, and 1 out of 4 were short, or 1/4, 25%. So what did Mendel figure out? Well, first, he figured out that traits exist in individual forms, and that there are two factors that control those traits. In other words, they appear in pairs. Those pairs are made up of one trait from each parent, and that there is a form of each trait that is dominant or covers up or masks the other form of the trait. Well, thanks for watching. I know that I did not go into a lot of detail. If you would like, I would suggest that you watch the genetics video next. We go into a little bit more detail.